Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, as always, to the PSGL YouTube channel. It is the turn tonight of the F5 League to take centre stage for round 7 around the Autodrome Nationale Monza. My name is Jake, and I will be filling in tonight for your usual commentary duo of Felix and Jack, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. I hope you're all having a fantastic evening, and I'm sure we are in for another superb race here in the F5 tier. Just to recap quickly, the last race at Circuit Zandvoort saw, quite incredibly actually, a 6 different winner in 6 races here in F5, with JT Gelato taking the win ahead of Mikulizzi and Hyde, who took the other spots on the podium. And also just to quickly recap, the other spots in the points were taken by Ferhan, Ritaka, Lewis, Leon, Kev, Gavin and Cymix. In terms of the championship, despite only having one win to his name so far this season, Ritaka holds a 9-point lead in the championship over nearest challenger Mikulizzi, who are further 8 points back to a very close fight for third between Ferhan, Matt, Gavin and Hyde, with just 7 points separating them. And in the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull are, well, in large, dominating thanks to the formidable partnership of Ritaka and Ferhan, and they hold a 31-point lead over their nearest challengers Haas, with Williams a further 10 points behind in third place. In terms of our location for tonight's round of the championship, we are of course at the Autodrome Nationale Monza. This classic venue has hosted every Italian GP in F1 history, at the exception of 1980. Labelled of course as the infamous Temple of Speed, this track mainly consists of long straights with heavy braking zones into chicanes. We'll be having a 27 lap race here tonight around this 3.6 mile track, with just the 11 corners to negotiate around the lap, 2 DRS zones to aid overtaking to. The first one is down the pit straight, and the other starts on the exit of a second Lesmo and goes all the way down to the Ascari chicane. The key to getting a good result here tonight for these drivers will be a low downforce setup and taking full advantage of a slipstream effect. And with that in mind, we should have a fantastic race ahead of us tonight. So we'll get on straight on then with the business of qualifying. And let's have a look then. We've got Ritaka, who is our championship leader, so we'll follow him round for our first lap of qualifying. Straight out on the soft tyres. In fact, only Nino has gone out on mediums for their opening lap, so these drivers getting straight down to business here in qualifying. And we will follow Ritaka around a lap of this circuit. In terms of a pole time, what we're looking at, I mean, the pole time in F7 yesterday was, as a reference point, was a 1:18.2, so I reckon we probably should expect to see a low 18 here for pole, perhaps if we're lucky, perhaps dipping into the 17s with an absolutely perfect lap, but my initial estimation would be a low 18 is what I should expect to see for pole position here. As I said, Ritaka's got a pretty solid lead in championship, all things considered, to say they've only won one of the 6 races we've had so far, but consistency has very much been their friend, and although they haven't won too many races, they've consistently been at the sharp end, and that's what's put them in this good position coming into the halfway point of the season. And I have to say, this lap so far is looking pretty solid for a banker. Up to the end of the second sector now, flicks it into Ascari. Gotta be careful not to cut too much of the inside, otherwise your lap time may get invalidated. Gavin set our opening benchmark. Oh! Oh no! Oh, that's an absolute disaster. And I get the feeling we'll be seeing that one in the stewards. Oh, Hyde has made a real mess of that. He clearly wasn't on a lap. Ritaka was. And he just didn't really move out the way. I'm sorry, but you can't put it in the middle of a racetrack. Clearly wasn't quite alert enough to the situation going on around him. And that really has cost Ritaka, who won't be doing a lap now in qualifying due to that damage. And Hyde could be facing a very severe penalty going forward for that one. It very much looked like Ritaka really didn't know which side to go on, and by the time Hyde had chosen what side he wanted to choose, it was too late, and the inevitable contact happened. Let's see if we've got Ritaka's teammate Furhan on a lap. I believe we have, so we will follow this one round, but that's an absolute disaster for the championship leader. Not what they wanted at all. Don't know what everyone's thoughts will be about that in the stream, as Furhan has his time validated. Have we got Matt on a lap? Yes, we have. In the other Haas, as mentioned in the build-up, Haas are the nearest challengers to Red Bull in the constructors. I don't think there was any foul play in that from Hyde. I just think it was a case of not being alert enough to what was happening around him. But it's just not something that can happen in qualifying. That really has put pay to Ritaka. Cymix has been disqualified from qualifying. In terms of one bit of news from the last race, Gio cannot race tonight. He does have a race ban for an incident with Gavin at Zandvoort, so that is one person who we won't be seeing today for that reason. As Matt pops it into third, we've only got 5 lap times on the board at the moment. Gavin still, his time from earlier, still holding up on a 1:18.4 with Gelato a couple of attempts behind. Let's see if we've got Kev, who is a reserve for the league. See if we've got him on a lap. No, he's just coming into the pits. So I don't believe, unless Cortez is invalidated. Is he going for another lap? No, he's coming into the pits. So at the moment we don't really have anyone to watch. We'll just stay on board with Matt to see if he goes for a second lap or anything like that. Doesn't look like he is. And so far then, as I say, we've got 5 lap times on the board. Leon currently the slowest out of those 5 lap times. A driver I've seen plenty of in the F7 league. Due to his outstanding performances in F7, he got the promotion up to F5. Scored points last time out. Hasn't found it has found it a lot more challenging than I think he found F7, but seemed like he was ready for that challenge. And you know, in a race like such as Monza, it is really an opportunity for those who maybe haven't got the outright pace to get an excellent result. We saw that certainly yesterday in F7, some very surprising results, especially with a late safety car that can definitely throw things up in the air. Got plenty of people out on outlaps, so let's have a look then. I'll go with Furhan, who is somehow invalidated the outlap, which is quite an achievement. Who is the closest to starting a lap, I wonder? Looks like we might have an AlphaTauri further up the road. Is that Gelato, who I think might be about to start a lap? Yeah, we'll go with Gelato for this lap. So he gets ready to wind one up. Everybody now on the soft tyre, no one thinking of doing anything different in that regard. And Gelato winds one up. Currently on the front row, but very few lap times put in as of yet. Gelato, of course, the race winner from last week, so he'll be looking to follow that up with another strong race showing here tonight. Pretty solid through the opening chicane there. Hooked it up nicely, got a pretty solid exit. Cymix is disqualified, so I've no idea why his car showed up then. We've got another car up ahead. Hopefully that stays well out of his way. It's Nino, and he does indeed, although that may well have put Gelato off going into the braking zone, just having that uncertainty as to whether that racing point was going to move or not. But it doesn't seem to affect him too much now. On the power nice and early, out second Lesmo, and straight back on the power now to the all-important Ascari chicane. Gelato is slightly improving. Oh, but he's invalidated. Run a bit too much curb there through the second part of the Ascari, and that's his lap time gone for now. So he won't be improving on this lap. We've got Fairhan, who's about to complete his opening lap time of the session. Leon's improved to an 18.9 to go fourth. What does Fairhan manage? It's an 18.9 for 5th. Need to find a little bit more than that. I'm on board now with Hidder. I'm going to stick with Hyde, it sounds better for me. Of course, involved in that very controversial early collision with Ritaka. What can Hyde do across the line? It goes up into 4th place on an 18.8. I've got Cortez in the Mercedes going around the final corner, and he's pitting. Obviously not happy with that lap. He hadn't invalidated it, so clearly just not feeling like that lap time was what it needed to be for him, and opting to return to the pits. Let's follow Puma, who's had a pretty solid season in the McLaren. One podium to their name as of yet, but just a one podium to their name, but some solid results in there. And of course that updated McLaren livery. Up to the end of Sector 2 now, Ascari, the corner, as we've mentioned, where you have to get it absolutely spot on, and that was pretty good, that from Puma. And we see in the race as well, with more fuel on board, the exit of Ascari can catch many drivers out, so that's something to watch out for in the race. Oh, look at... Oh, and his time's invalidated. You just saw there, it just picked up a lot of understeer mid-corner. Did Puma there, so that's not ideal for him. Nino has popped it up into 3rd place on 18.5. Matt has actually gone onto the front row on an 18.5. Still a temper drift of what Gavin managed. Oh, we now got Lewis, who was invalidated at the exit of 2nd Lesmo. Ran a little bit too wide, so that's put to that lap. And we've also got a Ferrari warming up for his lap. That'll be Kev. So I imagine we'll follow Kev round, who's about to start a flying lap in the Ferrari. Just getting the tyres warmed up, nicely kept out of the way. Of course, wouldn't have known that Lewis had invalidated his lap. Oh, and I reckon he's had his next lap time invalidated around the final corner, because he's suddenly backed off it and gone straight in the pits. So that is not ideal for him. Still not got a representative time on the board here, and quite a few drivers struggling to get that lap time in at the moment. And for Gelato, who's a temp up on their previous best in the 1st sector. Oh, run a little bit too wide there in the exit of 2nd chicane. They may well have got away with it. They definitely won't have got away with that. And I wonder if Gelato's backed off this lap. I think he might have done, to be honest. I don't think this is going to be an improvement for him. Nope. Just a few little mistakes in there put pay to that one. As for Gavin, the only person who's actually on a flying lap at the moment, currently on provisional pole, but will want to try and lower that benchmark if they can. And so far so good on that one as they come up to the end of Sector 2. Oh, this is a much better lap. This is looking at getting into the low 18s. Oh, ran it as pretty much, I think, as much curb as he could have got away with. That was very nicely done from the Williams driver. Now braking into the Parabolica chicane. Got on the power very early, actually. Maybe a bit too early. But nevertheless, a 1:18.1. I thought perhaps he could have run it a bit wider on the exit there, but he didn't need to. He's found 0.3 of a second, and that's going to be a very tough time to beat. That's for Leon, who's on his, I think his 3rd flying lap now. His first 2 laps already in the bag. He's slightly up on what he's managed. Gavin has now retired on track, which I'm not sure he should have done, but nevertheless, we've got Leon coming around the final corner, currently in 6th place. Is this going to be enough for Leon to improve? Yes, it is. Up to 2nd. Provisionally on the front row there for Leon. Still a 0.4 adrift to Gavin, but he'll be very happy with that lap time. He'll definitely want to be happy if he stays there. But there's a lot of drivers behind who could take that away from him. One of them who was on a lap is Hyped Shoals, but he has put it into the wall there, looks like on the exit of the Ascari chicane. So he won't be improving. He'll need to get back to the pits as quickly as possible. And he may be able to do one more lap. Furhan has invalidated his lap time, so he won't be improving. He's actually back in the pits now. And in fact, the only driver we've got out there is Lewis on an out lap, so we'll see. Follow him round. Very closely contested qualifying session behind Gavin anyway. But I reckon there's a few drivers out there who could get pretty close to that lap time. Two and a half minutes to go now in the session. Drivers will be getting ready for their final flying laps. This will be Lewis's last attempt. So let's follow it around. He has yet to post a lap time. This will be his last effort in the session, so he's got to make this one count. Brakes down into the first chicane. I'll spot your braking point just right. A little small lockup, but he got that turned in quite nicely actually. Gets on the power as soon as possible now for the Curva Grande, which, let's be honest, isn't really much of a corner in these F1 cars. 25.9, that's a very competitive opening sector from Lewis. If he keeps that going, he's looking good to pop it on the first couple of rows. And this has looked very smooth through sector 2 as well, not running wide anywhere. This was a corner that caught him out last time. He went too wide on the exit, but this time he's got it absolutely spot on. This is looking like a very good lap from Lewis here. I think he's around a tenth of a second down on what Gavin had managed at this point of a lap. But if he keeps that going, he should comfortably get on the front row, but he had a wobble at the exit of Ascari, and his lap time has gone, and unless he's got enough fuel for another lap, he won't be posting a qualifying time. Hype Shoals actually managed to do a second lap, surprisingly, and got away without damage. And then decided to keep going on those tyres. Look at Lewis at 18.3, that says exactly what I thought. Hype Shoals did do a second lap though and has put it into 5th place on an 18.6. Lewis isn't going for it again, so that's his qualifying session done. He won't be improving. That's as good as it's going to get for him. Trying to see who is on a lap. We've got Hyde. Oh, Hype Shoals will need to get out of the way. Hyde there using a little bit of a toe, which is a little bit sneaky. Hyde is not improving though. He's a couple attempts down. He's just going to absolutely have to nail it through Ascari, but the car's constantly trying to step out on him. And again, he's using the toe off Leon. I don't think that's allowed, but he's going for it anyway. As Hyde puts the power down the exit of Parabolica, I mean, he probably needs all the help he can get on this lap because he wasn't improving prior to it. And he doesn't improve, he stays 7th. So no improvement there. The checkered flag is out. Gelato will not be improving. Kev goes up into 7th place. We've got Fairhand Racer, who is on a lap. He's currently only 9th. And with his teammate having a poor qualifying, this is a good chance for Fairhand to get a good qualifying spot here and really take it to a championship leader, but he's only 7th. I think he would have hoped for a little bit more than that. Who have we got who's nearing the end of their lap? We'll follow Matt around. Unfortunately, Nino's had his lap time validated. Matt made a small mistake there, so he won't be improving. You wouldn't imagine, because that will have cost him a tenth or two. If he can just find that little bit of time, though, he could pop it up ahead of Leon. Puma's done a 1:37 to go 11th. Why not, I suppose. Matt did improve ever so slightly, but it's not enough. In terms of who else could be out there to improve, Leon's had his time validated. What's Cortez up to? He's had his time validated as well, so I don't think anyone else is going to be improving, so I believe that's the grid we've got here. Gavin takes a convincing pole position, 4/10 of a second clear of Leon, who's popped it onto the front row impressively. Matt is taken third. We've got Nino fourth, Hype Shoals fifth, Gelato sixth, Furhan Racer is in seventh, and we'll see the rest of the grid very shortly. Yep, so Furhan Racer 7th, Kev is 8th, Hyde is in 9th, but he has actually got a 5-place grid penalty, which I assume is for what happened with Ritaka. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, and I've for once the game's got that right. I think Cortez is in 10th, Puma is in 11th, and then we got Lewis, Ritaka, and Cymix completing the grid. Based on that qualifying session, if Gavin can keep up that sort of pace, he's going to be very difficult to stop in the race. Of course, we never got to see what Ritaka could do, but the championship leader's going to have a tough fight from P13. We've got lovely sunny conditions once again for the race, so it doesn't look like the weather's going to be playing any sort of part in the result today. As ever, this long run down to turn 1 here at Monza is going to be absolutely key. It's very, very incident prone, this corner, so got to take it easy at the start. You certainly don't want to lose a race before it's even really begun, and that can be very easily done. So all 14 drivers then on the grid. Ritaka moves up to 12th courtesy of Hyde's grid penalty, which actually drops him right to the back. Let's have a look then at what tyres those outside the top 10 have gone with. Obviously Puma actually starting on the mediums, because obviously he started 11th. He actually qualified 11th, only went up to 10th because of that penalty for Hyde. So Puma starts on mediums, as does Lewis, but Ritaka and Cymix opt to start on the softs. For most drivers, it will most likely be a soft to medium strategy. There is the option to go from soft to hard if you want to go for the undercut early on. But soft to medium is pretty doable here as long as you don't shred your tyres too quickly. And Gavin here leading the drivers on the formation lap. He'll be happy with how qualifying went, but he'll know that he's got a very difficult job ahead of him in his next 27 laps if he wants to maintain that. Of course, I mentioned obviously earlier that there were 6 different drivers, 6 different winners in the first 6 races. Just to reel those off quickly, that's Ritaka, Furhan, Cortez, Gavin himself, Matt, and Gelato. So Gavin knows what it feels like to have stood in the top step before. You know, he knows what it takes to win. And in the build-up to tonight, he was feeling pretty confident. Based on a quick video I saw of him doing a lap on Twitter, he was feeling quite confident about tonight's race, and he certainly showed that in qualifying. Can he reproduce it over his next 27 laps? We shall see. Drivers now beginning to line up on the grid then. It will be, as we look at it, it will be Gavin on the right, it will be Leon on the left, who will get the best getaway from the front row of the grid. Just waiting now for the lights. Should be coming up any second now. Not entirely sure as to the reason for the delay here. All the cars are ready. It's taking an awfully long time. I have no idea what's going on here, but it looks like there might be an issue. Hopefully the lights will come on pretty soon. And we can get round 7 of the F5 League underway. If the drivers weren't feeling nervous before, they definitely will be now. A prolonged wait will always do that. And it looks... Oh,